Alright, so we're going to go over some basic redstone inputs first, and all of these are going to be things that the player interacts with. It's going to be user interfaces that the player will use or set off in order to make things happen in our adventure map. So you have things like buttons, tripwires, levers, pressure plates, weighted pressure plates that respond to different numbers of items. The more items you have on it, the further they go along the redstone path. Daylight sensors, which you can use for all sorts of things like digging up to set them off and changing the light values around them. Then you have like redstone trap chests, which whenever they're opened, they set off a signal. And then there's comparator inputs, and these are some of the more useful things. If you have a comparator coming out of a chest, depending on how many items are in that chest, it will go further along in the redstone path. So right now I have a few items in there. It goes down 1. And if we put more of them in there, you can see it sets that off because it went down 1 further. Same thing with hoppers. If you put anything in a hopper with a comparator out of it, it will put a signal, which is good for testing different things. Same with dispensers and all of that. You can use comparators on command blocks, and that's where you get into some of the more advanced triggers. So things like test4 functions, so /test4, and then the closest player, and then use different restrictive parameters for that to test for different things. So in this case, you push the button and nothing's going to happen because this test4 function is testing for players that have a limit, a level minimum of 5. So that's the restriction we have here inside the brackets, is level minimum. And so once you get to level 5, if I give myself a bunch of experience here until I'm higher than 5, I can push the button and now it will set off that trigger because it tests for that, and once it finds a player that's level 5 or above, then it will do that. You can also put same sort of simple restrictions such as radius, and then that way if I'm stepped far away from this and push the button, it should turn off like that. But if I go close to it and push it, then it just checks for players inside a certain radius of this command block. Now this is a little bit more advanced, but I'll show you how to do this. This is just one that tests for effect changes. So you can use comparators not only for the test4 function, but anything that comes out with a positive result. So whenever it checks for things, changes in the game, that it does. So this one's set up to a clock, so it's just going back and forth and powering this a whole bunch. So it's checking every few seconds to see if this is true. And this is just a /effect command, which basically looks for players in a 5 block radius. So there's our target command right there. So it's closest player within 5 blocks, and then it's trying to set us to speed. That's the first stasis effect right there. You can put different numbers in here for different stasis effects, which are just potion effects basically. There's in the description of this video, I have a link to all the different stasis effects, as well as tons of other really great resources that will help you out when doing stuff with command blocks and all of this redstone stuff. Then the next one is the amount of time that it's going to be giving you that effect. So 0, since we want to remove this effect, so we're taking away the speed potion effect. So it'll be 0, and then the strength of the effect is the third number, and that's we're setting to 0. So right now, if I use this speed potion, then it will remove that effect from me and trigger this output from just testing this block to see if it changes. So every time I use a potion next to it, it will do that. And you can use potions away from it, and it will act like normal potions. But once you get close to it, it will remove that effect and trigger it. So another really popular one that I use all the time is the motion sensor one, where whenever you're within a certain radius of a specific coordinate, it will set off a trigger. You can see that the light lights up only when I'm inside this radius here. This is done really simply. You just have a clock that constantly is repeating and checking this command block, so it's constantly looking for a player inside that area. And this is the same thing, test for function, where it looks for the closest player, and then it has coordinates here inside the requirements. It has your coordinates, your x, y, and z coordinates, first three right there, and then it has a radius of 5. So I just went over here to this spot that I wanted. I hit F3 so I could see the coordinates for that, and then I put the coordinates in there exactly in that order, and then I put a radius of 5, and the radius of 5 is this big circle here, so every time you're inside that circle it does a positive output. And that lets you do all sorts of different things. It will let you keep track of players and where they're going and all sorts of stuff. This is another input device that's a little bit more advanced, a little bit more complex. You can kind of see how it's built here with the item hoppers, one facing that way, one facing that way, a bin, then an item hopper on the top here. You can put this in the floor like that, and then anytime you put any items in here, nothing happens. They just stay in there unless you put the right item in there, and it lets those items filter through, and then it puts positive output on this trigger here. And this is done just simply by having this configuration, and in the item hopper here you'll have just filled up with the item that you want going all the way across, and then this here will be stuck at 18. So it won't let any more of them go through because of it checking to see if it has enough to power that. Like the comparator checks this hopper, goes over here, and then once it has more items than 18 and 4 across here, then it will power this part here, which sends our output, and then also it comes back over here and removes the power that's stopping this hopper from sucking items from it, so it can remove all the items until it's down to that point. And then if you want, you could use just a chest, but on servers, if you were making quest systems where you're going to have lots of people throwing items into there, and it's going to be collecting tons of items, you don't want this chest to fill up, so you can create something like this. This is my own design for an item destroyer, and you would just have, instead of a chest here, you would just have hoppers that are coming out of it like this. So they're all facing that way, and then they go face, and then they'd face into this hopper here, and this goes into an upside down dropper. The dropper has a comparator, goes into there, and this is just a super fast item dropper, so you can throw a whole bunch of items in here and it will drop them really fast. And then you could put lava or cactus underneath that, and that will allow the items to be destroyed safely without causing a whole lot of lag on your server. Well, these are some basic inputs that we're going to be using in our adventure map. I'm going to make some cool videos of actually creating an adventure map and how you actually start using these things to make different things like that. I'm also going to do a build video next week on spiral staircases, so keep an eye out for that. Hope you guys learned something, and I will see you guys next time.